Hello, my fellow comic book collectors. Today is Wednesday, and today is a very special day because I do my Q&As on Wednesdays, and basically it's your chance to ask me whatever questions you want, and I will do my best to answer them. So last week, a bunch of people asked me some questions, and today I'm going to answer them. So without further ado, let me get into the questions. The first question is from Polly76. I can't wait to see your next Promise Collection book. Well, Polly, if you wait till tomorrow, I will be actually showing two new Promise Collection books that I'm adding to my collection tomorrow. So stay tuned for that unboxing that I'll do tomorrow, and you'll see my additional Promise Collection books. What are the biggest comic collecting regrets? For example, books that you passed up on and or books that you overpaid for. Thanks. Well, I have a tendency of making the same mistake often. And this is a regret that just hit me recently. I am super sad about it, actually. I've been sort of lamenting it for the last few days because I was going to make a purchase on my comic shop where they had a book that I've been wanting for a while because I thought it was such a great cover. It's Fight Comics number 35. Now, if you're not familiar with that cover, it is by Joe Doolin, and it's a cover with a nude. It's a nude. She's a nude. She's naked, basically. She's wearing like a grass skirt and just like a hula wreath around her neck that kind of covers the important parts. And there's some guys that are below her about to attack her, and you see some men in the background as well. It's just a really so much story in one image, and it's just a really great cover. I really like that cover. So it's one that I had always wanted. It came up on my comic shop for a reasonable price. Actually, it's like $1,000 for 4.0, which is, for that book, a very reasonable price. I put it in my cart. I waited a couple days because I wanted to, there was a auction. I just wanted to watch it and make sure that I wasn't getting the book from that, and then I'd complete the order, have it all together, and then pay for it, right? So I waited, and I don't know, somebody else bought it. It disappeared from my cart. I was like, I was like so sad because it was a book that I had wanted and it disappeared. So that's a book that I'm not sure if I'll see again for a while. It's just kind of disappointing. So Fight Comics number 35, that is the one that got away recently. So it's very on my mind. Okay, now another comic that that almost happened with, and kind of did happen with, was I had bought or tried to buy. I was negotiating with this vendor for Marvel Family 1. And it was a 2.0. It wasn't a super high grade or anything like that. And the price was, I think it was a 2.0, 3.0 kind of range. So just so you know. And I think the price was $3,000. Buy it now. It was a buy it now or best offer. Okay, so whenever I see for best offer, I'm thinking, well, I can save some money. So I put in a best offer, $2,000. Now, they didn't accept it because as I put that best offer in, I don't know why, I have bad luck sometimes. Well, within like a day, so they had some time to kind of think about it. There was an announcement that the Black Adam movie was coming out, and all of a sudden that Marvel Family 1, which is the first appearance of the Black Adam, that went from being, like, as I said, about a $2,000 book. So that $3,000 was actually overpriced, and I actually was trying to give fair value, and I even said that in the comment when I wrote to them for it. It went from being a $2,000 book to being a $10,000 book overnight. It just went up, crazy price. So yeah, I was like, the guy, yeah, it was actually interesting. Not only did he reject my offer, he removed the buy it now. Like he removed it. And the next time I saw it back up, it was 6,000. I probably still would have been a good buy. I thought, oh, I'm not going to buy it. Like it's like it should only be worth 2. It's gone up to 6. I don't think that's a fair price. That same book's now like a $10,000 book. However, I did manage to get the book eventually. I didn't quite get that higher grade one. I got a 1.8 restored. It just happens to be a nice, reasonably nice looking one. It's a little faded, I have to say, but I did manage to get it in my collection, so I'm quite happy with that. Yeah, I can show it a bit better so you can see it. So this is Marvel Family 1. And this is the first appearance of the Black Adam. And I ended up having to pay, I think it was $3,800. So I did pay a fair amount for it. And it is restored, just so you know. But generally with restored books in these low grades, the price is almost the same as a Blue Label. And it's a CBCS book. It's not a CGC. And I'll show you the back. It's quite nice. So for the grade, it looks quite solid. Actually, I'm kind of confused why the grade is so low, but yeah, it doesn't really say why it's such a low grade, because it presents quite well for the grade. Like there's no pieces missing or anything. It's just the spine was split, but it was resealed with glue. So I'm not sure. They're almost treating the grade as a split spine, and restored. So I don't know. I don't get why they did that, but they did what they did. Now, in terms of overpaying and regrets about that, I almost feel silly about this one. In the 90s, back in the 90s, I collected Malibu comics. And I actually paid a pretty high premium at the time because those books were hot. They were the hot books like, Supreme and Mantra and Prime, and all these books from Malibu Comics were really hot. And, they were mass printed, but at the time people didn't really get into that concept. They didn't realize how overpriced these books were. And some of them I paid like $20, but at the time that's big money. That was big money for me when I'm like living on $50 a month for food. So that was big money for me. So it was I bought the whole entire collection. Now that same collection that I probably spent maybe over $1,000 on back then, because it's a pretty big collection of books, would be worth maybe a couple $100 today. However, because it's like they're all dollar bin books now. However, there's kind of a funny story about this as an aside. That Malibu collection, I stored it in a bunch of long boxes. And while my comic room was getting complete, so this room, like we were getting it built, because it was just originally like an exercise room. So we took all the exercise equipment out and we basically built this room with shelves and wall units and everything. And while that was happening, I couldn't put my comics in here, obviously, because it was getting built. So I was storing them in another room. Well, there was a flood in that other room. So my comics, there was 3 long boxes that got destroyed. Just heavy water damage. And it was my entire Malibu collection that got destroyed. So I had some bigger books, but it wasn't those that got destroyed. It was all my Malibu ones. Now, the insurance for my house covered my comics. So what they did is they paid me $10 a book for any loss of books. So actually, I kind of came out on top, considering the books were not really worth that much. There were a few that were in those boxes that were worth maybe $50, but majority of the books were, as I said, maybe dollar bin books. But they were giving me $10 a book. So I ended up I ended up well on the thing, because it was like about $6,000 that I got. and I was able to use that to buy some cool books. So I was quite happy about that part. I was sad. I was very sad actually. I really did love my Malibu comics collection. I still have it. They're all water damaged, but yeah. So that's my story about that. Okay, so next question. This comes from Cole Collects. Really interesting video, Alan. It's great seeing the UK variants finally get the recognition they deserve. I'm in the UK, and most collectors here still in the US first print mindset. I have a question for you. What is your personal favorite comic, and is there a story behind why it's your favorite? Sorry if you mentioned it before. So this is one of those ones where depends on the day. Really depends on the day what's my favorite comic, because I'll have like kind of like these weird love affairs with different comics in my collection. Like the first comic, and I mentioned the story so many times about this, that really got me into the hobby was Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck #1 was the comic that got me into collecting comics. However, the comic that got me into buying like the premium comics, the blue chips, the big books, was this one. I set my goal pretty high. I really love Wonder Woman as a character. I just think she's the greatest thing. And I really wanted to have her first appearance. And, I collected comics, but I never collected the really expensive ones. Like the most I would pay for a comic, maybe $100. That was like big money. I would never spend more than $100 on a comic. And I would go to my local comic book shop, and we would talk comics. And, he had a few that were way over 100, obviously. And I debated about buying them. But I always talked about the fact that I was really interested in Wonder Woman's first appearance. And he said that he happened to have that book. And that book is this book, All-Star Comics #8, the first appearance of Wonder Woman. Now, this is my favorite book today. As I said, kind of changes on a daily basis. But this one is the one that really got me into buying the bigger books. Buying the books that are above that $1,000 mark, above that $10,000 mark. Because I paid $20,000 for this, Canadian. It was Canadian. So that's roughly 16,000 US. Now this book, it's a 2.5, would be about a $40,000 book. So it was really a bit of a stretch for me. I was like, oh, I don't know. It was my entire savings. Like after I sold my previous house and bought this house, I had about $20,000, $30,000 in savings. And I used all that savings to buy this book. So it was the first big book that I bought where it was in that high price range. And I was super excited about it, I have to say. And it really, once you pay that much money for one thing or book or whatever it is, it changes your mindset. It changes the way that you think entirely. It's almost like having children. Like I think of that time period where before I had children and after I had children, and how much I changed in mindset from those two periods. Well, that is kind of similar to buying a big book. And the reason I say that is when you buy a big book, all of a sudden you see, like, let's say you spent $20,000, some crazy amount, and you got your grail, but then there's other grails that you want. There's always something else, right? And there may be 5,000, 10,000. You think, well, I just spent this much on that book. That's not too bad to buy. So all of a sudden you're almost, your eyes widen and the possibilities widen as well, because all of a sudden you say, well, maybe I could get that book. maybe I could go after that Action Comics #1. Maybe I could go after, that, because your mindset changes. And I really felt that after I bought that book, and it really opened my eyes to buying a lot of Golden Age books. I actually thought, oh, I'll never be able to buy a Golden Age book, because I just thought they would be way out of my price range, or just not attainable. Like, not even something you couldn't afford, but something you couldn't even find. So it opened my eyes up to the possibility that I could actually afford these books, and it opened my mindset up to that I could actually find them and add them to my collection and have them as part of this crazy collection that I'm creating. So I was quite excited about that. So that's kind of the big book for me. So yeah. So I hope you liked that answer. I hope that was a good answer. And the next question comes from Captain UK Pop Culture Fun. So this is kind of a funny thing. So one of the things that I noticed, and this is kind of funny, I'm giving a shout out to all my UK subscribers, is that I did last week's video. I recommend you check it out. I talk about UK price variance, okay? And after that, I got a bunch of UK subscribers to my channel, and I got all this recognition from UK subscribers. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that I influenced people in the UK, and I showed respect for their books, because UK price variants are really underpriced, really undervalued, and they probably should get a lot more love. So Captain UK Pop Culture Fun wrote, I have a question to finish off. Do you think that if companies started to print newsstand copies again, although on cheaper paper and without the cover gloss, for example, like the UK Captain Britain's that you showed, there would be a place for them on the newsstands again, drugstores, convenience stores, etc., if they had a cheaper price point than the direct market editions? So actually, I thought about this. And it used to be the case, and it kind of still is the case, that like when I got comics when I was a very, very young kid, we would get the Whitman prints of a lot of comics, and they would come in like these 3-packs, and you get like usually they were like 25 cent, cover price, and you'd buy them for 50 cents. You get basically buy one get one comic free, or buy 2 comics and get one free kind of thing. So the price would be really affordable. And those were on newsstands. They were like, there was no direct for those. And you'd buy them, and they would be something that you would read and you sort of trash almost. Like, you'd treat them really poorly. I wish I hadn't, because they became valuable now. But I think that would happen again. You'd get that kind of reader into comics. And I think a lot of the people that collect comics from my generation, or maybe even older generations, had that mindset, that they just wanted something that was affordable and that they could, as a child, read. And what I found with direct sales is the market changed from being directed to the very young. Like, as I said, like maybe when I was buying these books, or not, my parents would buy them because I didn't have any money. When I was getting them, it was like they were affordable for my kid-like self. And they were books that were intended for kids. So they were Donald Duck, Disney character kind of books. And they were designed for young readers. But nowadays books, I find, aren't really intended for young readers. There's not that much out there for young readers. And I think that's a real problem with the comic book industry right now with direct sales, that what's happened is the direct market is targeting people like me, or people who are maybe 10, 15 years younger than me, or maybe 20 years younger than me because I'm old. But they're older people. They're not kids that are buying comics. It's adults. And I find if you get into something as a hobby as a kid, you have a much longer and much more rooted like collector's mentality about those books. And it's much more personal. And I think we're losing that. We're losing a generation of people, of potential collectors, because we don't have the books that really target those younger people. Because what happens with the direct sales is the price point's a little higher. There is like a different mindset when you go to the comics shop. It's just an older crowd. You don't see kids in there really often. I saw some kids, but they were like maybe in their late teens. That's as young as you get, and that was like, whoa, what are they doing here? It's very different. So I think that if we brought back that concept of the newsstand with the cheaper books, what you would have to also follow that up with bringing books that are targeted to a different audience, targeted towards those young kids that would buy those books. And I'd really like I think Scholastic or uh, what's the like Dogman or any of those would make really great comics that would be great for kids that could fit into that. What I think would end up happening though, and you see this now, and this is my kind of funny part to it, is there's sort of a Walmart thing going on where Walmart will release comics, in some of their stores. They don't do it in Canada. I wish they did, but they'll have these Walmart packs, and those are affordable, and they are newsstand like, and there's collectors that will just go and raid the Walmarts and pick up all these like 3-packs from Walmart. And that's what I think would happen, because what would end up happening is if there's a sort of a rarer or maybe more condition sensitive book, the collectors would sort of gravitate and try to pick those up too. So I'm not sure what would happen if there were newsstand versions in that way, where they're a little bit more condition sensitive, because I think a lot of collectors would be like, oh, I got a 9.8 of this condition sensitive book, and therefore it's worth 10 times more. So I think there would be a little bit of that. But I do see it as, I see that there is a market, because especially for parents, like I'm a parent, my kids are too old now, but when they were young, I would have loved to have gotten them into comics and been able to give them something that they could read, where I wouldn't have to worry about it, and just like it's there to be read. And I think that would have been a good experience, but there really wasn't anything available. So that's my thought on that. Next question comes from my good friend Keston. Keston's Old School Comic Books. He's I really recommend checking out his channel. Awesome channel. So Keston wrote, hi CCG, question for you. Do you have any Platinum Age comic books on your want list? Yes, I do. So Platinum Age, just so for the people that don't know all these different ages, I most often talk about the Golden Age. Golden Age is really Action Comics #1 onto the Comic Code Authority. So that kind of time period. And then the Silver Age is after that. There was a kind of an Atomic Age for a little while, but most people neglect it. So Golden, Silver, Bronze, Copper, Modern Age usually is the way people think. I created the thing called the Plastic Age in between, but yeah. All that aside, the Platinum Age is before Action Comics #1. So we're talking 1938, usually going back to the early 20s. So that kind of time frame. And the Platinum Age is kind of an interesting time period where you get books that are either reprints of news strips, like comic strips from newspapers, or pulps. There's a lot of pulps. And I actually am into those pulps. So okay, so first of all, there's a bunch of Mickey Mouse books that I'd like to buy from the Platinum Age, because most of the Disney books that were kind of the early first appearances of like Goofy and Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, all those kind of characters, they're from the early 30s, like 1933, 1934 range. Okay. And then there's other characters that I'd really like to get would be like Buck Rogers or something like that. Those are all Platinum Age books. Now, and that's King Comics #1, if you want Buck Rogers' first appearance. And that's on my want list. But the big thing that I actually kind of chasing after right now in terms of the Platinum Age is really the pulps. I'm looking for a lot of these more adult-orientated pulps. I really think they're interesting. So I'm a big fan of Sally the Sleuth. So I've been trying to get a lot of spicy detective stories. If I had it handy, I would show you. Do I have it handy? I don't have it handy. I have a few spicy detectives, and I could show you what they look like. Yeah, I don't have one handy though, but they are really cool. They're just really cool books from the Platinum Age, where it's kind of adult, a little bit sexy stories. So spicy detective, there's a bunch of these kind of more risque ones. There's others like Gay, or like it says that's the actual name. Paris, Paris Gay as well. There's a bunch that are really cool that I'd kind of like to get in my collection, but they're hard to find, and they're very, especially with the pulps, they're generally in really bad shape when you get them. The pulps were not designed to last, and you can see that with the books. They just in usually really, really bad shape. So that's something I'm trying to collect. That's something that I really want to get in my collection, especially the spicy detective stories or spicy stories kind of books. I think they're really cool. I would like to get those in my collection. And that's what I'm hunting for. And also the Mickey Mouse kind of early Disney stuff. Okay, so last question comes from Comic Mag Musings. And he wrote, okay, Canadian comic curator, I want to see some Warren goodness. What are your favorite creepy covers and your 5 favorite creepy covers and 5 favorite eerie covers? I appreciate it. Okay, I'm actually going to show you kind of a weird thing when it comes to Eerie. So I actually have my Eerie box right there, but it's behind a whole bunch of slabs and stuff, and I was being a little bit lazy. I pulled out one box, which was my creepy box, but I didn't pull out my Eerie box. But fortunately, when I was in university, I was weird. And I really loved Warren collecting. When I was in university, I was collecting Warren magazines, and I really loved them. I thought they were the greatest things. Nobody else appreciated them, but I appreciated them. And I was picking them up for like $1 or $2 each. So I was picking up all these great books from Warren Publishing for pretty cheap prices. Some I actually paid like 50 cents. It was like really cheap. I buy like whole just boxes of Warren books really, really cheaply. And what I did at the time was, you'd put them in your boxes and you wouldn't see them. I'd be like, oh, I really like, every so often I'd put them out on my apartment room floor, and I just like look at them and just enjoy the covers. But I didn't like that. I didn't like to have to pull them out of these boxes. So what I did was I was like, okay, I'm going to take these magazines to the printers, and I want to basically create posters of the covers of the ones that I really, really liked. So that's what I did with both Eerie and Creepy. And I've shown these before, but I'll show them again. So this is my Eerie ones that I really, really like. First is Eerie number 30. And this is just a really great cover, in my opinion. So this is the poster that I created. They cost me like $2 each. It's actually more expensive for the poster than it was for the actual magazine. That's so sad. But I put these up on my wall, and my girlfriend's really didn't like them. Um, it's kind of funny. But who's this creepy guy with all these creepy posters on his wall? So I put these up on my wall. Like they covered my wall. It was awesome. So yes, this is Eerie number 30. I just love this cover with the boy and the mummy and the couple just freaking out and the little boy is like going at it. Kind of reminds me of Creepshow a bit, the whole feeling of it. I don't know why. I just think it's really great. Okay, so that's Eerie number 30. And then I like this one for kind of a weird reason. So this is like a lynching. It's like Eerie number 13. It's like a lynching cover. Like he's like, choking this guy out. The reason I like this cover so much is it's the 13th issue and it's like all this 13 stuff going on. I just kind of think that's cool. And I think it's cool with the skull cover and this kind of horror element. And it just has this real like kind of, ominous thing to it. Like this crazy skeleton guy. I kind of like it. So this is Eerie number 13. And then we have Eerie number 43. I just like this one. I always liked zombie movies. And to me, this is kind of like that situation. Even though they're more ghouls and stuff. Like it's kind of not quite zombies. But what I like that whole, like in any zombie movie, if you watch enough zombie movies, there's always a situation, especially in the older ones, where you're in the person's in the house. They think that they're safe. They've gotten, they're like, they're sort of sitting there comfortably. And all of a sudden the zombies break through the windows and pull them out through the window, that kind of situation. And that's what you have in this cover. So this is Eerie number 43. I just think it's a great cover. I'm not sure who did this cover. Louis something. Goez. They had a lot of Spanish artists do their work. So yeah. And then we got another one that I thought was great. Again, I like this kind of trope of the monster coming in through the window. I don't know. That's why I really like Swamp Thing's first appearance in House of Secrets. I just really love that cover because of this kind of monster coming in through the window. So I like this one. You got this kind of innocent little girl. She's playing with her little blocks. And then you got this crazy, creepy werewolf guy, full moon in the background, and he's coming in through the window to get her. I just think that's kind of interesting. I like that dynamic. This is Eerie number 48. So I'll zoom in a bit so you can see it. Just a really great cover. Okay. And last of my 5 for Eerie is this one. One of the things that I really liked as a kid, and we would have like these circuses that would come to town. And I lived in the middle of nowhere. So the circus actually was a big deal because, it was entertainment it was like a carnival. It wasn't really the circus. It was more a carnival. And they would have the rides and stuff, but they would always have the freak show. And you'd have to pay a little extra to go into the freak show, like a couple dollars. And I always wanted to go in. I was always excited about that. So this kind of reminds me of that freak show element of the carnival, where you got this kind of freaky like guy. You got this, I always like the damsel in distress. That's a big thing for me. And then you got this other kind of Igor-like guy back here, an elephant. I just kind of like this whole circus theme to it. So yes, this is Eerie number 62. It's a cover I really like. Something about it, really like it. I like the fact that they got it in this kind of frame thing too, where it's part of the circus element. So I really like that cover. So that's Eerie 62. Now, I did pull out my favorite creepy covers. I actually pulled out 6, so you get a bonus for the creepies, because some of them I really like. And a lot of these are really great artists. Like the thing, like to understand about Warren is the artists that they had were top notch. Like they were really amazing artists. When the Comic Code Authority kind of killed the market, a lot of really great talent needed a place to go. they still want to produce these kind of cool horror books. And Warren really gave a lot of these great artists a home, especially artists from EC Comics. Because EC, after the Comic Code Authority, just produced Mad. It really stepped away from comics altogether. So we got a really great Golden Age artist, Jack Davis, from Eerie fame, from EC fame, I should say. And I thought this was just a really great creepy cover. This is creepy #1. I just like it because it's almost like story time. You got this, the sort of Uncle Creepy, and he's telling a story to all the monsters. And they're all like, listening on to this creepy story that he's reading them. I just think it's just a really great cover. So that's the first one on my list. Now, another really big Golden Age artist that found a home in Warren was Frank Fazetta. And he's considered to me like not just a comic artist, but just one of these artists. Like he is one of the top-notch artists that people will buy his original paintings and pay millions of dollars for his original art because he is such a great artist. And he did a bunch of covers for Creepy. So this is the first that I wanted to show. This is Creepy #11. And this is a Frank Fazetta cover. And you got this kind of almost like King Kong-like thing going on, where you got the big ape in the background and again, damsel in distress. I like my damsels in distress. You got this blonde girl running away. If she had the red dress, it'd be that perfect Golden Age thing, but this is not quite that. But it's just really great cover from Frank Fazetta. I really like that one. And next one, these aren't in any particular order. So just if you're wondering if, do you have these in an order or anything? They are not in order. It's just in order of actual number, issue number. So this is Eerie, Creepy #62. No, 29. Sorry, I'm looking at the next one. This is just another great. I think this is a kind of that good girl art cover, but you got that kind of. She has like kind of a mutilated face, and she's running from the guy, and behind. So I just really like this cover. There's something about the fact that she's kind of sexy and running into with lingerie and just a bra and her underwear basically. Just interesting kind of dynamic to this cover. I really like it. So this is Creepy #29. And then we got another Fazetta, and this is one of my favorite actually from Creepy. I even have like the Fazetta poster for this one. This is really great cover. And this, I believe it's Fazetta. Oh, yeah, I'm positive. Is this one Creepy number 92? Just a really great cover. I just like this good girl art cover. She kind of reminds me of Deja Thoris or something like that. I think it's a really great cover. I really like this one. I even have the poster that they produced for it. Just really like that cover. Next one is another Fazetta. So these two are Fazetta. I'm not sure if that's actually a Fazetta, to tell you the truth. I think it is. Pretty sure. We got Creepy #7. This one I think has been homaged a lot because it is such a great cover. It's just a really great werewolf versus vampire cover. It's another Fazetta one I think is just really great. I just like how the two main guys kind of pop on the cover. I just think that's really nice. And the background is just so well done. So like that. And this one definitely has been homaged. I've seen it in Yasagi Ojimbo. they did an homage to it. Again, another werewolf versus somebody. Like maybe he looks kind of almost like a 19th century kind of guy. And you got this werewolf and the castle and the full moon in the background, the bats. Almost reminds me of Detective, the Batman one by Neil Adams in a way. Just that whole dynamic of the castle and You know, the woman running away from the castle and Batman kind of looming over it. It kind of has that similar feel to it. Yeah, just a really great cover. I think that was Batman 225 or Detective Comics 225. I always get the numbers mixed up. Okay, but beside the point, I just think it's a great cover. This is Eerie number, Creepy number 4. Sorry, Creepy number 4. Just a really great cover. So, and the stories within these books are quite good. Like, they're short, kind of fun stories, you know, very Tales of the Crypt-esque to them. You know, they got that feel to them. Okay, so that has been my Wednesday video for my Q&A. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel and ask me your question and I'll answer it next week. So I hope you enjoyed. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now.